And actually it's quite a common argument that you know, free market economics may bring all sorts of dislocation and awkwardness and uncomfortableness, but it's what we've got to do. We have to do it. Here's another complication, which I'm fond of, and I haven't seen it much talked about, but it deserves to be. I remember, like an idiot, christening it with the hockey stick graph, and then unaware that about a fortnight earlier that had been taken by something else. But I now call it the alpha graph, the alpha graphs, I should say. And it concerns this, that if you look at the consequences of an act of government rearrangement, the immediate effects are often quite good. And certainly quite good to the people who benefit from those rearrangements, and not that bad for anybody else, because you know the cost is spread out all over the population. So, for example, the very first publicly financed houses in Britain in the early part of the 20th century were really very nice, and they change hands. They change hands now for the same ludicrous sums of money as any other kind of house that's built by a proper house builder. Changes, you know, they're nice places. It was only much later that public housing became the, you know, the frightful mess that it became. Remember, I was an architecture student, so I'm a bit well acquainted with that story. In other words, you've got a graph of goodness, very roughly, which goes like this: up a bit, and then it starts to go down. And the bad news with government activity usually comes in the long term. The good news comes straight away. Which is one of the reasons why politicians do love natural disasters, because people are all thinking, how am I going to get through the next 3 days without dying of thirst or a tree falling on us and killing us. You know, that is the sort of situation in which even the most intelligent people who entirely see the point of free market policies and know exactly and might agree strongly with all the things I've said and all the things I'm going to say, still say, well, if the mayor can bloody well organise me somewhere for my kids to sleep tonight, I'm not going to turn it down, and I'm going to be pleased, and I'm going to be grateful. Now contrast that with the benefits of free markets. When a free market opens up, it's often thoroughly chaotic. And often you get con men and incompetence, and they're often the same people. They don't intend to start out being dishonest, but because they've fucked up their business so completely, they end up telling lies, hard to tell from straightforward crooks, you know. And to begin with, the thing can be very, very bad, very difficult. The customers, meanwhile, like the lady in the supermarket, how do you choose? You know, you don't know your way around, you don't know who to trust, you don't know who the good producers are, you don't really understand the product itself very well. It's difficult. And to begin with, the graph of dislocation and bad news and good news, well, it goes downwards in a bad way. And then gradually things start to stabilise. The con men start being identified, the incompetents leave the market, reputations for good products start to be built. You start to know who the good people are, you start to understand the product, you talk about it with your neighbours and friends, you get on top of it, and then the good news starts coming. The products just get better and cheaper and more abundant and just altogether incredible as the years go by, to a degree that seemed impossible when it started. So you've got this graph that does that, two graphs. But the point is, how much easier it would be for us libertarians if it just went like that. Because then we wouldn't have that bit at the beginning to contend with, which is the cause of so much grief to us when we say we want to get rid of some state activity and have a free market. That's just another complication for you. I don't want to make that the whole talk, but that's just